Hello and welcome to the No Graft No Glory podcast. This is episode 1, and I'm really delighted to say for my first ever guest, I've got with us Leon McCowan of Your Business Mobile and Sales Dojo, a bit of a networking legend, a bit of a business legend around the Liverpool part. So I thought, who better to get on to have a good old chinwag wig with about the Graft and the Glory than you? How are you, mate?
I'm very good, although I'm rather nervous now that you've given me such a build-up. I'm going to have to make sure I don't disappoint, aren't I?
Well, we're all disappointed to somebody at some point, aren't we? So I just have a go and see how we get on. So, listen, this podcast's a relaxed one. It's a business podcast, but what I want to do is I really want to get to talk to people like you who are in it and living it and breathing it every day. But I want to understand. I don't just want to see the glory. I want to know the graft that goes behind the glory. So a real good chat about what it takes to be successful in business, not just seeing the Instagram reels of you and your yacht or you and your Lamborghini. What does it really take? So go on, Liam, give us a bit of an overview of where you're at today. How did you get to this point?
Load of mistakes, a load of crazy coincidences,
Yeah.
and a load of fucking hard work.
You haven't got the hair colour I've got to show for it, like, have you? Do you know what I mean? You still kept the
Just
dark
for
hair
men.
colour.
Just for men.
Beautiful. Yeah, the beard needs touching, but you're getting there. So
Yep.
you talked there, didn't you, about loads of fucking hard work, and that's the bit I think that I'm really interested in exploring a bit of today. So when you say hard work, what's hard work look like for you now every day?
What's it look like now for me every day is probably different than what it looked like before.
Yeah. So talk to me about now, because you're still grafting today, and then we'll come back to how it started.
Yeah. So you're asking me what the day-to-day looks like now, or are you asking me what
What's
the
the
jet lag
graft?
looks like?
Yeah. What's the graft like? What's the graft
So
today?
I would say I'm typical of many solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, business people, all of them kind of things, in that I often go home most days and wonder why someone's paying me for doing naught.
Yeah.
Like, I often go home and I'll say to me, Miss Frankie will say to me, like, oh, how's it been? I'll be like, oh, I'll have to check my diary and see what I've done. And I'll go through and I'll read through what I've done that day. And then I'll think, fucking hell, someone's paying me to do this. And I don't feel like I've done enough work. Um, if I'm honest, I know I know I do work hard, and that's not true. I think it's just that imposter syndrome stuff, which I think if anyone's listening and is thinking imposter syndrome's a really bad thing, I think it's a good thing. Like, I think you want to get imposter syndrome, and the reason why I say it's a good thing, and I often have conversations about this with people, is with all due respect to people who stack shelves in Tesco's, and we need them. Thank you very much. You helped us through COVID, etc. You don't often get imposter syndrome from doing them kind of mundane jobs, because I know, because I've done them. You do get imposter syndrome when you're doing really good stuff. You do get imposter syndrome when you're doing really big projects. You do get imposter syndrome when you're building big things and got employees and stuff like that. So I think imposter syndrome's glorious, and it's a really good thing, and you should embrace it and not worry about it. To answer your actual question, which I never do, you know what I'm like. What it looks like today is loads of different things, like literally a myriad of different stuff. So I'll be at a networking event. I'll be on the phone making calls. I'll be in a meeting trying to close a deal. I'll be in a meeting on a one-to-one having a conversation with someone who's an existing customer. I'll be chasing some stuff. I'll be sending some emails. I'll be replying to some emails. I'll be doing spreadsheets and working out deals. I'll be chasing up suppliers to find out if they've done what we wanted them to do. I'll be working on problems from clients that have contacted me and said, oh, I've got a problem with X, Y, and Z. I'll be looking back on stuff that I've done in the past and working out what I was supposed to have done at that point and why it doesn't look like I said it would to a client. Just loads of stuff.
Yeah, and I think, but what's really interesting with that, right, that always gets to me is that when people watch you day to day, right, or see you about, whether it be, having a meeting with you, seeing at network and seeing you in the office, seeing what you're doing, I don't think they'd know half of that, right? They'd be like, I've never actually seen him do loads of work. I've never actually seen him grafting away or doing this, that, and the other. And that's the challenge, isn't it? Do you see what I mean? It's like people look and go, are you really doing it? But how are you getting the success? And then the jealousy creeps in, or then oh, I think I can do that because it just looks like it's easy. And then the reality of networking, phone calls, emails, contracts, all of that kicks in. And actually people go and go, oh, shit, I've got to do it. So how do you keep doing all of that day in, day out? For how many years have you been doing it now?
So I've been doing telecoms for 26 years. Been doing the Sales Dojo stuff since 2017, so 9 years. Been doing stuff for Professional Liverpool for 2 years nearly now. How do you keep doing it? Well, people have different motivations, and I've never been motivated by a big car. Or, I mean, I need a big car because I'm a big lad and I can't fit in a little one. But I've never been motivated really by that big, massive thing and that big goal and stuff like that. That's never really been something that motivates me. My best kind of motivation is the fear one.
Okay.
Shit, what'll go wrong if I don't do this kind of stuff? That's how I, a deadline. People talk about. I often speak to entrepreneurs who go like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be planning my project and I'm going to be doing some stuff," and I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" Whereas what I'll do is I'll agree to do something and then I'll flap about 2 or 3 days before it because of the fear of getting it wrong and not having it right. And then I will work really hard on something for the fear of not being able to deliver on this timeline, and then I'll be able to get that successfully completed.
Yeah. That's really interesting, that the fear, isn't it? So even after, because if you were to be honest, right, and I look, I haven't been at it anywhere near as long as you have in this game. I was corporate for a number of years. I would never have put fear down as something that I would think you would have, or a lot of people would have after that amount of time of doing it and worrying. So, what is it, do you think, that keeps the fear going then, mate? Is because you can't be complacent, right? So you can't have fear if you're complacent. So what is it that keeps that going for you?
Having staff.
Okay.
Knowing that there's a certain number of mortgages which are responsible for on your business for being paid if it doesn't happen. Having clients and customers and knowing that you've made promises to them when you've met them and said you will do and deliver some stuff. Agreeing to things like events and talks and workshops, and knowing that because you're a nice person, I'm not saying I'm a nice person. Well, I am a nice person, but I'm not trying to say I'm a nice person. You know what I mean? Knowing that you want to make sure you deliver properly. And that is, and look, this is not bad stuff that I'm talking about here. This isn't me saying, "Oh, I know that this is what drives me." So I know that if I focus on, like, I'm doing a talk next week, whenever this goes out, it probably will have happened, for the university for a Professional Liverpool event called Lead Here, which is for future leaders in the city, and I'm doing it on network and how to network effectively. And I got an email a couple of days ago, and they said, "This is what you're doing, and these are the people are talking, and this is how many people are coming along." So I've already got the stuff prepared. I know what I'm doing. I could do it without slides. I could do it without some stuff. But when that's dropped on my desk, I'm like, right, shit, yeah, I've got to make this really good for them people. I need to make sure that them people leave there feeling a little bit taller than when they walked in. I want them to be going out of this event with more confidence. I want them to have a conversation randomly at a networking event in the next 2 years, and that to become a client, and that person to become a customer, that person to become a business partner or a lover or whatever it is. So I can then find all the reasons why I need to focus on doing something really well, and then that'll light me up, and I can go, right, yeah, them slides, I was being complacent, I'm not going to use them, I need to rejig them.
And how often do you? So again, one of the other things that I see a lot of is people who get into that and keep that going, and not necessarily the fear, but a bit like myself, is I look and I go, right, I just want to do the best I can because I know in the future I want to see people again. And every single time I meet somebody, could be the first time I met them, but I'm always being judged. When we're out there as business owners or doing what we do, we are always being judged, and that can impact getting another gig, 2-3 months down the line, another customer, or that customer coming back to you. So how often do you review your process? How often do you review what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, or is it just you've got your method and that works, or do you review that regularly?
Oh, like every hour, every day, every week, every month, every year. Yeah, like, so I'm always of the belief that this is what I believe now.
Oh, okay.
Not that I've completed it. Like, if you ever think you've completed that's the day you're fucked, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the day you think you've got it nailed is the day that you are goosed. So yeah, look, and it's an email from a customer who's not happy. Got one yesterday. So I'm like, okay, let me have a look at that. Why? What is it? What have we done wrong? How do we fix that? What's the bottleneck? How do we improve this experience for them next time? And this example I'm talking about was something simple as they weren't happy with one of the phones, which they selected. So it's like, okay, how do I fix this? Right, so I need to ask more questions in my sales process to make sure that shiny thing that they've seen on the internet is actually what they need for the business. Right, okay, I need to get deeper on my questioning. I need to not be surface level when someone asks for something, and start doing some painful conversation questions with them to make sure to dig into the reason why they think they need this product, not just say yes. Because this is a common thing that people will do is, excuse me, sorry. Obviously, we're looking for a sale and we're tuned to get our product out there and we want to do it. And when it feels like someone might be about to say yes or might say yes, or it feels like your product is good for someone, we jump on it like a tramp on a bag of chips because we're addicted to someone saying yes.
Yeah.
And we go with that instead of doing that thing where you talk your way out of it. And I always think whenever we talk about stuff like sales process stuff, like the best thing you can do in your business and your sales and whatever you do is have a big, massive pipeline, because that is the best fix for everything that ever happens. When you don't is when you do the other stuff and the wrong stuff. So if I look back on this one, I was a little bit complacent at the time because I've had this client for a while, and I didn't follow my process of asking the right kind of questions. I didn't dig into it. I let them place an order instead of me selling them a product.
Yeah, but I think that's really interesting, right? Because what the easiest thing to do with them when you're new into business, or actually, not even if you're new, just people in business, is they get that email, right? And straight away your thought was, right, what have I done here? What have I done? What do I need to get better? I see a lot of people then go, oh, well, it's their fault. They picked the phone, so it's on them. Well, I'll give them a little bit. I'll send them back. I won't look at the root cause. I won't look at why that happened, what it did. It's really interesting, your mindset. And, potentially one of your big assets of why you've been so successful. And actually, still after 26 years in telecoms, go, oh, actually, did I follow my process to the T? Did I find out and let me get better? Love that.
Yeah, well, look, we've had loads of conversations around this kind of stuff and emotional intelligence stuff. Many years ago when you stepped away from the corporate world and we first met. I still owe Alex a punch in the neck for introducing us. I'll not forget that. No, I'm joking there, by the way. But we've had them conversations and stuff like that, and it's like there's only one thing you can change, which is you. You cannot change anything else. You can only change what you do and your reactions and how you act. Everyone else is a consequence of that. And I never realized many years ago that I was like that and it was an on purpose thing. I just kind of developed that. And then speaking to you and reading books and doing courses and stuff made me understand that that's really important. Feedback is a gift. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. And feedback is absolutely everywhere. It's absolutely all over the show. It's in how you act, in what happens, in how people interact with you and stuff like that. And you've got to be switched on to make sure that you take that feedback and do something with it. Loads of people just let it wash over them, and that's fine. And loads of stuff washes over me. I'm not saying I'm switched on to everything. But what happens is if I don't, it happens again and again and again and again and again. And then I have to go, fucking hell, what am I doing here? Right, let me try. Oh, yeah, that's happened a few times. If something happens once, it's a mistake, is the common thing that people will say. If it happens again, it's on you. It's you that's got to find a way of fixing, changing, monitoring, switching, addressing, doing something with that.
I love that. And you are right, by the way, because again, one of the areas of feedback that especially when you're starting a business, right, because it's your product and you've got it, you think, oh, this is it. It's brilliant. I love it, so everyone's going to love it. And the first time somebody comes in and goes, don't get that. What's that? You know what I mean? That can be like a dagger, and people then give up. Oh, well, nobody wants it, what it is. Actually, take it, listen to it, take the value of it, and see if you can improve it, whether it be a product or whether it be feedback about your sales process. Or, we'll get onto this in a moment because I'm really interested about the cold call and things that you've been doing. But again, when you make those phone calls and you get those no's, understand why you got them at whatever point of the pipeline. The feedback is a gift at whatever point it comes in. So earlier on, I asked you about where you're at today in the graft.
Yeah.
And obviously that has been honed over the 26 years. And I am sure over 26 years, you've had a shitload of feedback. So talk to me about how it all begun. How did you get on this entrepreneurial pathway? How did you get on this roller coaster 26 years ago?
Yeah. So, like I said to you at the start, when you asked about what's happened, how I got into telecoms was a complete accident. So I was working in a factory 28 something years ago or something, or 27 years ago. And I worked there. My dad worked there as well, and I was quite bright when I was younger, and I did okay in school. I got some good results. I had entrepreneurial skills and abilities, like selling cigarettes to other school kids, all that kind of stuff. Um, and my dad told me I couldn't work in a factory because I was wasted, so I went and got a job somewhere else. And then I had a moral disagreement with one of the bosses in there, which had resulted in me hanging him by the wall by his neck because I didn't agree with what he said, and we both agreed that it was probably best if I left.
So
And I
probably
had,
not the best way to give feedback. Then you wouldn't necessarily
well,
give feedback
this is
that way.
30 years ago, mate, so I wasn't very good at feedback. Don't get me wrong. Um, and I started working selling advertising in a place in town. So I was on the phone making calls. Basically, I was given a yellow pages, a phone, and a script, and he said, "Say that to them and sell this," and then just left us. It was honestly, it was horrendous at the start. It was like nightmare stuff, but it was so good for
Yeah.
character building, and like it was so good for me to learn some stuff. But how I got into the telecom stuff was I was selling advertising, and I got the details of someone on what was a Thompson's local new business card. So I won't bore every one of your listeners, and I'm sure I've told you the story, and I won't bore you again with it. But the chances of me getting this card with this company's details on in a room of about 80 to 100 sellers is just so small. Like, it's so small. But I got that card. I phoned this company, and he said to me, "Phone me back on Tuesday." And I phoned him on Tuesday. Phone me Wednesday. Phone me Wednesday. Phone me at 1 o'clock. I phoned him at 1 o'clock. And I was chasing him and following and doing my follow up and doing the right thing. And I phoned him one day, and he said, I was talking to him. We were kind of agreeing that he was going to place an advert in this product in this publication that we were doing, and he just said to me, he said, "Come in tomorrow and see me, and I'll buy the biggest advert that you do." And in my best Scouse, because this was 30 years ago before I toned down my Scouseness, I was like, "Listen, mate, I don't think you know how this works. I sell fucking advertising over the phone." And he said, "If you come in tomorrow, I'll buy the biggest advert that you do." And I was like, shit, the biggest advert we do is £5,000. I've never sold a £5,000 one, and I'm on 50% commission. I'm going. I had a look where he was. Postcode was PR something, which I assume was in Southport, but was actually in Preston because they're not really ventured outside of Liverpool at that point. Bought me mate's car the next day, which was a Escort Eclipse in maroon. It was a beautiful car with pepper pot wheels. And I borrowed this car and I drove to Preston to get this guy to buy this advert off me. And I went in and we were chatting, and I was trying to get him to buy this advert, talking about this advert, and he was telling me about his business and what he was doing and how he'd started it and what his plans for the business were and all that. And then he went, "I want you to come and work for me." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I'd love you to come and be like my first salesperson that I take on." I was like, "Mate, I'm getting £2,500 on Friday from this advert that you're buying off me today. This is not happening." And he's a great guy, Jason. Jason, his name was. Anyway, he was keen on me working for him. I was very keen on getting a £2,500 bonus on the end of the week. We worked through, had a chat. He offered me some money, blah blah blah. And anyway, we ended up. I walked out of there with I think he offered me 28 grand basic at the time. Might have been less than that, 26. Can't remember what it was. And a company car and a fuel card. And I don't know how I negotiated this from him at that point. But I was currently at that time working commission only, selling advertising, so I didn't even have a basic wage. And if you remember the Conor McGregor walk when he's won loads of money, and that's what I basically did down when I'd secured that new job. And literally that's how I got into telecoms 27 years ago, completely by mistake, by chance of me getting that card and following up with this guy and ringing him repeatedly and having a process and doggedly continuing to phone him at the right time.
But putting the graft in, right, in regards of I've got to do this, I've got to keep going, because if I don't, and you don't see a lot of these now, really, those type of jobs. I remember, I went for one when I think I was 16, upstairs, no windows, big phone book, and you're just selling advertising. Well, I was actually double glazing where I was in Middlesbrough. But again, and it wasn't for me. I lasted a day and a half, and I was like, nah.
You need to bring them places back as well, by the way. It was like, anyone who's listening who doesn't understand how this looks, think of Wolf of Wall Street, and when they're building Stratton Oakmont and they've got them all in there and they're all got snakes in the office and stuff like that. It was basically like that, but you had to smoke at least 30 cigarettes in the office because you could smoke in the office that time. In order to work there, you needed to smoke 30 bifters a day. It was glorious.
But that was I'm picturing it in my head now. Go fucking hell, yeah. But that was built into you, right? That was something that you said there that Jason obviously identified it when you've been ringing because he's thinking this kid keeps ringing me back. He's not taking no for an answer. I'm interested in speaking to him. You went in, you did that, but if you hadn't have followed that to the T that you were asked to do and have that little bit about you wouldn't have done it. Now, many people, if you think about it, give up now off one phone call, or they'll send an email. Do you know what I mean? Oh, well, they haven't replied to my email or they haven't replied to my phone call. But actually, by following that process, did you get your $2,500 still?
So I didn't. So I had to leave because he wanted me to come work for him really quickly, and the place that I worked, the way it worked, it was maybe not the most straightforward or legitimate or moral. But what happened when you sold an advert was you filled out a document and you passed it into the office, and some guy in the office phoned the company back to confirm the details of that order and recorded it on a tape, and then sent them an invoice the next day with an email. And then if they didn't pay within a week, they got a copy of the recording, which was the legal contract, and basically chase them down. It wasn't the greatest, and at the time I didn't know that much about it. But yeah, so anyway, no, I didn't want to get them to agree to the sale, me to go back to the office, agree to the sale, knowing that they would then get chased for $5,000 within about 5 days. So no, I didn't end up getting the $2,500, but I got $2,500 many times over from them after I'd worked for them for a number of years.
Oh, is right from Jason when you went into telecoms, yeah. So
Yeah.
For itself. Yeah, you did. So you move into telecoms, but that's not. You aren't an employee still, and you haven't been for 26 years. At that point, you were an employee, but then you became the employer, right? The entrepreneurial thinker, the business owner. So what was in you? Because so many people are employees, Leon, right? Loads of people, and they're just happy. I've got a job. To your point, I've never had a regular income that I can guarantee on. I've got a regular income. So what was it in your mind that made you want to keep grafting and become from the employee to the employer?
I didn't want to do that. That wasn't like part of the plan at the point. So I was quite happy being employed. I helped them build businesses a few times and sell them to the networks. And I basically was the first salesperson, then I became the sales manager, then I became the manager of the sales team, and then blah, 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 and all that stuff happened. And I learned about the business and how to do it and all that kind of stuff. And I was doing the training and stuff like that. And I learned loads of stuff inside the business. I think the universities call it intrapreneurship, where you go and learn how to run a business by working in a business. And if any of your listeners are in that situation, or if anyone is, just try and learn as much as you can. Like, just make notes, learn some stuff. If they ask you to work on Thursday a little bit later to do something different, go and do it. Go and learn all that stuff. But yeah, so I was working for these guys, and they were building and selling telecoms business for a number of years, and one went bust 2011, 2010, around that time anyway. And what happened was the owners of the business wanted me to go and work with them again. But like, they'd spoken to me individually and as pairs and stuff like that. So like, I've been made redundant, which was tough. Like, and I often speak to people and, who've been made redundant, and I say, like, the best thing that ever happened in my career was getting made redundant. It stung like fuck at the time, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because that made me start my own business and become the employer from the employee, stuff like that. But I wasn't intending to do it. I was going to look for another job. And I was pretty happy and buzzing with myself, because I'd had these offers from the directors who wanted to work with me and stuff like that. And I remember sitting down with a mate of mine, Baz, who's brilliant, and he just tells you as it is. Like, if you think I'm blunt, fuck me, Baz is even blunter. But I was like, oh yeah, I've got this stuff. He's like, what are you going to do? I was like, oh yeah, it's brilliant. These guys want to work with me and stuff like that. And Baz put his pint down and he said, are you fucking stupid? And I was like, what? He's like, are you stupid? I was like, nah. He's like, can't you see what the situation is? I was like, no, what do you mean? He's like, they all want to work with you. They want to do stuff. You've had offers. Why don't you just do it yourself? I was like, I wouldn't know what to do. He was like, fuck off, lad. Just give it a go. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I could do this. And it was genuinely, it was complete chance of having this conversation with him at this point in time, that I didn't go and try and find another job and try to do it myself. Borrowed a few quid off Frankie's mum to get set up in the back of in a shed in the back of her garden. I mean, she had a lovely big garden. The shed had like a golf simulation driving range, and it's not the kind of shed that you might be thinking of. It was brilliant. And it just kind of started by accident, I guess.
So that's mad. That I never knew that actually. Really interesting. All the years I've known you, I didn't know that. But I think well, I do, yeah. But I think it comes back to that imposter syndrome, right, that you were talking about earlier. Still around, you made Baz. We all need a Baz. I think that might be a new catchphrase. Everyone needs a Baz to just tell you how it is, whether it's
Yeah,
over a coffee, a pint, or whatever. But that little voice inside, I can't do that, I can't do that. Why would I do that? And somebody go, just give it a go. But you've made that difference in choice, right? Okay, I'm going to have a go, and I'm going to do it. And what was that like? Because again, there'll be loads of people listening to this, watching this, thinking, I'm on that journey now. I had a job. My story. I was made redundant,
yeah,
and then again set myself up. Didn't go well the first time. Went into startup, scale up world, and then luckily learned a lot from mistakes and doing quite well with it now. But I think the interesting point that you made there is what I think people will really resonate with and understand is going, right, I'm going to jump into it now and have a go. Can you remember what that felt like and how long you kept feeling like, shit, will it work? Will it not work?
Oh yeah, it felt really good because it was like, oh, we started a limited company. I was like, oh, start a limited company, and it was like, oh, we need a logo. Let's get a fucking logo. And it was like, oh, we need a business name. And it was like, Frankie's brother said, oh, why don't you do this? And I was like, yeah, this is really good. And it was really nice at the start. It was like, oh, this is all new, and look at me, I'm a business owner. I'm going to get some business cards and all that bullshit. And it never came crashing down, but the stark reality of it hit when the 15th of the following month came up, which is the day I was always getting paid for the last 15 years. And there was fucking no money in the bank to pay me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is weird. And then it was like, oh, right, okay, I've got to make this happen myself. And so it was like it was a very short honeymoon period of that whole, having building the business stuff. And, we have chats with business owners all the time. We meet them, we have conversations. And when I first started doing this maybe 10 years ago, I'd say, don't fucking worry about your logo, soft lad, just get on with it. I've softened that approach now a little bit now and said, it is nice to get the logo, but think about where's your money coming from and where you're going to get your next first sale and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was a harsh lesson for me when on the 15th of the month I checked my bank and no one put any fucking money in it. Like,
and I was laughing because you're spot on, Andy, because again, when you start, you get excited what we're doing, where we're at. And again, obviously, the three areas I'm really big on is clarity, control, and consistency. And it comes back to that clarity piece, right? Around, right, what is it that I need? Who am I selling to? Where am I going? Who's going to have these phones? And how many do I need to sell to be able to make that payment? So you started, you by yourself. You're in one of the nicest sounding sheds I've ever heard of, by the way.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I still dream of owning one of them sheds one day myself.
Beautiful. And Netherton or in Liverpool was this?
Oh no! So it was Frankie's Mars. So we were in what was it called? It was the really nice place just outside Preston.
Okay.
Can't remember what it's called.
Anyway, he sold out. He left his route because I was thinking a driving range in the shed in Netherton. I'm not sure they're last or whatever they're at. But yeah, we'll quickly move on from there. I don't want to turn half the people off. So then you're going in. How you start selling? You're calling. What's the crack?
Well, the really good thing about this was I'd spent the last 15 years on the call front. Like literally my job was get on the phone. Like if I was not in a meeting, I was making a meeting. That was all I did. And I did a bit of training around it and managing people and stuff like that. But my grounding was get on the phone, get on the meeting, get yourself set up, have a conversation, cold call, all that kind of stuff. So like it was really useful that I already had that like instinctually that was my thing. So like I was just on the phone, and if I wasn't in the meeting, I was on the phone. And at the time, stuff that came in, like doing a connection or doing a credit check and stuff like that, was like this was the thing that was pissing me off because it was getting in the way of me wanting to be on the phone and try and make some stuff. And I guess I think that's where my journey would be different than lots of people, because they would have built something or found something or done something and then want to do their own thing, but not have that grounding of literally get on the fucking phone or get out the office.
Yeah, such a right, because it's normally the opposite way, right? Is when we start businesses, we don't automatically think we become a salesperson, right? We've got this business. Well, actually, 90% of your time as a new business, you're selling, right? You've got to be selling. Everything that you do has to drive income or move towards income. And if you've never done that before, you've never been a salesperson before, it's really difficult, and you want to do the fluffy things a little bit more probably. Whereas, like you said there, your grounding call face was used to making the calls. So, how many do you reckon? We had a chat about this thing with the other week. How many do you reckon sales calls you've made?
See, I worked it out the other day when we were having a conversation, and I don't know if times 48 times 27. I reckon it's easily a couple of million calls that I've personally made.
Yeah, but
mean,
whenever I say to you, how many sales, you're not going to say, well, yeah, probably say a couple of million, right? You get
how
how many
many
numbers?
sales came from it?
Yeah, God, yeah.
Oh no. So I probably would have worked this one out as well. So 972 divided by 27 equals. I reckon maybe a couple of million calls would have got me 20,000 sales or thereabouts in that period.
I'm no good at maths, but that's not a high percentage, right?
Well, I was going to tell you exactly what it is now. It's about 1% of them, 1.5% of them, something.
Yeah, I thought around 2%, right? And I think that's a really interesting bit around when we talk about the graft and the glory. People automatically think, the glory. I'm getting the sales, it's coming in, but there's so much work you've got to keep doing, isn't there? Before that, those extra amount, those many millions of calls that you've made. But let's break it down to realistically, right? Every day you've got to be making calls, you've got to be reaching out to people, making connections, and I suppose that's something that won't have changed from 26 years ago to now, because that has to stay the same, right?
Yeah, the inbuilt desire to do that stuff has never changed. The things that I've got to do as business owner, as a second business owner, as a consultant for some other work, as a doing some lecturing, that means that I haven't got the time to do as many as I used to before. But the discipline is still there to do it. Like, the desire to do it is still there and strong enough. It probably is not as much in the way of calls now. So like, all I ever did was cold call them. Like, that was just my thing. I would smash out 150 calls a day, no problem on that. I probably do about 20 or 30 calls a week, I would say, cold ones now.
Yeah, but you've got, like you said earlier, though, you've got people in the team, right? So you've got people who make the sales calls for you.
Yeah. So we've got
And you'll
people.
expect the same of them, though, right? When you hire them, you say to them, look, these are the standards that you've got to hit. You've got to do this. Otherwise, you're in the wrong game.
Yeah, so I think we hit on a model that helped to build a few telecoms businesses and stuff like that. And that model was getting people on the phones and making calls. And then if they could do that, then we might get them on the phone making sales. And if they could do that, then we might get them out visiting clients to make sales and have conversations with them. And I think it's a similar thing for me, is like, that should be the journey. What you go through is, can you get in front of people? Can you make the discipline to make the calls? Can you get in front of people? Can you close some sales? Yeah, then can you then become a business owner?
So, some stupid amount of businesses go bust year one. You're 26 years in, running your business, doing well. If you could, I suppose I'm going to try and get you to summarise 26 years in a sentence, or a couple of sentences. What do you really think has been the secret of your success? That, take telecoms out of it, right? Just talk about running a business. What do you think the secret of the success has been?
See, you've mentioned success a few times, and this is something that I don't like the sound of, that word. And when I say that, what I mean is, for me, I've never got the really nice car, although businesses could afford it. Because my challenge would be, if I start putting myself in a position where I think I'm successful, if I've got the Range Rover, then I'm worried that I'll let off and I won't do as much work and stuff like that. So I don't think I would consider success. I'm on the path to success, I would say. I'm trying to get there, and the success for me will be when, hopefully in 3 years' time, at 50 years of age, I will be able to decide to work whenever I want to instead of having to.
Yeah, so really interesting that you say that, because I don't look at success as a Range Rover or a car. So
I'm not saying a Range Rover or a car there, by the way. I worry about the trappings of success, i.e. deciding you've been successful, buying that car, having that fancy office with the fucking slide and the table tennis table and all of that kind of stuff. The trappings of success, I would guess.
Yeah. And by the way, that's that's a really, really good message to get out there, because I've been part of a business where we thought we were successful before we were even successful, right? And went for the bigger offers and went for the bigger numbers, and learned some really harsh lessons by doing that.
Yeah.
But where I come on to success, and really I'm talking about the glory, right? From the graft to the glory, because glory is different to everybody, right? It can be, you're talking about ego getting in the way and losing control of that and thinking you've done it, when actually you're still on your journey to whatever that looks like for you. But I want to know a bit more about what it's like for you now out of that. So you're working your ass off, you're doing all this all day, every day, you're helping people, you're networking, you're making calls, you're paying people, signing contracts. What do you do outside? What's success outside like for you? Tell me a little bit about Leon outside of the three-piece.
Yeah, so I would, for anyone who's watching this online, you'll never see me outside of a three-piece. I wear a three-piece in bed, and I also wear one on the allotment and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say that the trappings of that success allows me to spend time helping somebody else in their business. That's the fruits of my labour. It allows me to give back to charities that I'm involved in and stuff like that. It allows me to be on a board of a new startup charity or a new CIC that allows me to do some stuff. So I would suggest that they are the trappings that I would do. What do I do outside? You're asking me what I do outside of working.
Yeah, right. I want to explore you, the person, right? So I know a little bit about what you do, but I think it's really cool to share it with people, right? So yeah, what's fun? Because you work for something, right? And you've mentioned Frankie, your partner, a lot on this call. People want to know who Frankie is. Frankie's your partner, obviously for a number of years, and a big part of your success in the background, I'm sure. But what's what you're doing outside of work?
Yeah, so my only job right now is to make Frankie happy for the rest of her life. That's what I've taken on, and that's what I've got to do. So that involves me making sure sometimes I'm able to have breakfast with her before I come into the office. And she's not an early riser, Frankie, and I'm an early riser. So there's a big clash for me in terms of like, I want to be in the office for 6:30 because I'm up and I might as well go and do some stuff if I'm not at gym. Whereas Frankie won't get up till about 8 and wants to have breakfast about 8:45. And the hard work trying to get that graft done thing for me is like, fuck me, I cannot be in the office after 9 a.m. That's what kind of a message am I sending out there? That's disgusting. So that's the kind of stuff that allows me to do, is to spend some time doing that. I'm on the board of a couple of charities, which I've mentioned to you before. One of them is a homeless charity, and I joined that because I was working in town and I would see the signs of homelessness, as I thought at the time, and just thought, when I'd spoken to a couple of these chaps who were on the downers, and I'd say chaps because most of the people that you see would be fellas out on the streets, I just always thought from their story, fucking hell, there, but for the grace of God, go I. Like, these people were, most people are 2 or 3 steps away from being in that situation. I've missed a falling out with somebody and stuff like that. So I'm on the board of Emmaus, which I enjoy doing, and I like to help with the work that they're doing. I'm on the board of, or I'm a trustee, I can't remember which one it is, of Laurel's Wood CIC, which helps young people in urban areas to go and enjoy trees, lighting fires, building dens, all that kind of stuff that I think really helped me when I was a kid to build social skills and stuff like that a lot of young people these days just don't get access to, because sit down, shut up, here's an iPad. Parents are busy trying to work 2 or 3 jobs, haven't got time or effort to do it. You don't see kids outside playing anymore these days. They're all locked away on computers or can't afford to go and do some stuff. I like doing that work with Laurel's Wood. I've got allotments, so this weekend I'll be cutting back a load of ivy on my allotments and trying to fix up a fence that fell down a couple of months ago. I've got bees on my allotments, so I'll be watching them coming and going with pollen and stuff like that, and I enjoy doing that stuff. I'm going to match at the weekend as well, big Liverpool fan, so which this year's not been the greatest, but if you look back on the last 10, 15 years, has been brilliant, and some of the best times of my life have been at the game with my mates, singing songs to 22 millionaires, kicking a bag of air around the field, which is crazy.
So listen, you Liverpool fans do my head at the minute, right? Because every time I get, you're getting the footy, rubbish at the minute, I'm not enjoying it. I think, you don't know you're born, so I'm a Middlesbrough fan.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I am enjoying it because it's not about the result. Like, it's not about that result that day. Because the boss thing about footy is, like, there'll be another match next week. There'll be another season next year. There'll be another player in 3 years.
And supporting footy's graft, right? Do you know what I mean? It just is, isn't it? Emotions up, down, left, right, centre. Do you know what I mean? I absolutely love it.
It
We've
can
got
be,
what?
but it can be, but that's if you are really focused on the outcome instead of enjoying what's happening right now. And this is the thing with, like, being in business or the graft and stuff like that. If you're really focused on the outcome at the end and, like, what's this big thing, you might just miss the joy of a right conversation. You might miss the joy of, like, you know, an agreement to get a deal. You'll miss that little stuff, a nice message from a customer saying thanks for sorting that stuff out. If you're too obsessed with the big outcome and the sale and the IPO and trying to get this big massive thing, you'll miss all the really glorious things that happen every single day. And it's the same with the footy. Like I said this the other day, I've been on the Anfield Rap podcast a few times with the lads, and when it was a bit crap, we were all walking about it. I remember in 2021, 22, 20, I can't remember what season it was, one of the COVID ones. One of the best times for me going to match was when Alisson scored that header, our goalkeeper. Yeah. And, like, we were crap. We were dog shit. We were the worst of the worst. But in that moment, the joy, Mo Salah looked at me, I'm sure he did, and I looked at him. We shared a moment, and it was a joyous moment. And there's loads of opportunities to have joyous moments in every single day in your business, with your family, with your stuff that you do. And sometimes I always get drawn to the end of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and life comes at you fast, and if you don't stop to take a look around, sometimes you might just miss it. This is the same thing with work. Like, there's loads of opportunities to have joyous moments in every single day, and if you don't look for them and appreciate them, sometimes very soon you'll be 47 with hair going grey like I am, and you will have completely missed all of those really boss moments.
Do you know what? This is why I knew I'd have you on, Seeley, on bringing it back to the reality, because that's really interesting, isn't it? How I suppose you can associate anything with anything, but you are right, especially right in the football. I'm just going to pick it up on one thing. If you've got to watch Middlesbrough, right, you don't want to live in the moment. It's just going to having to watch that crap week in, week out. But I will take it from the joy that you meant. But bringing that back to the business side, I think that is a really good point, isn't it? Because especially in today's world, we get so caught up on what the end game is for our business, or you mentioned IPO, or just getting investment. Now, so many entrepreneurs are setting up, and the first thing that they're thinking about is, how do I get investment, and not looking at getting a sale in or enjoying the sale or what that is. How does my deck look? How does this look? I think that's a really good point for anyone who is listening on this. Is it is hard when you're starting business or at any point during the business, and if you don't stop to realise what's went well and where you're at. For some people in the first quarter of setting up a business, getting a sale's huge. One sale's huge. Someone's paid you for what you think works, and to get that and for it to come out can be amazing. But again, we'll lose the fact of that after month one, we haven't got the wage that we expected that we would on, when we were in a corporate world and we were picking up or any paid job really, and where that's at. So yeah, I think that's, I think that's a really, really good place to round that off. There's loads more that you talked about. I want to pick you up on one thing, though, right?
Well, you always pick me up on something, lad. Go on.
I am, right. So, you are a people person. Everything that you've talked about there, right, was for somebody else, right, apart from your allotment, right? But everything you do, being on the, making Frankie's life happy and, keeping her happy by only seeing her once a week for breakfast rather than every day. I'm sure she's made up by that. But, being on the local boards and all of those type of things. But you are constantly looking to help people, right? That's what you said earlier. I want to help people. I want to do this. I want to do that. But when I asked you a little bit about what's one thing that people don't know, you actually said to me, I fucking hate people. What did you mean by that? Because you don't hate people. Go on.
No, I don't hate people. But like you said, like, what's one thing that people don't know? And this is what I'll always talk to people about is... Yeah. People are like, oh, network, and you go to network and you do network, and you just say, I'd rather fucking not. Like, genuinely, I like my own space, my own time. One of the best things for me is, I'm looking forward to it tomorrow. We're recording this on a Friday, and tomorrow is Saturday, and about 6 a.m. I'm going to get up, and as soon as the light's out, which will be about 25 past 6 tomorrow, I will get me dog, and me backpack, and me flask, and my bottle of water, and I'll go up the allotments and I'll spend some time not fucking seeing any people. and
Right,
I'll
okay.
dig a hole and I'll cut some stuff back and I'll move some wood from there to there, and I moved it from there to there last time, and I'll stack them bricks up again and stuff like that. And when I say like I hate people, I don't hate people. Of course I don't hate people. I love people. But the common thing that people don't understand is like I would rather not do all that networking. I'd rather not do all of that meeting people. I'd rather not do all that kind of stuff. And that's because the reason why I do that is because I know that's where the magic is. I know that's where the money is. And it's the same with like, going to the gym. Like I fucking hate going to the gym. I couldn't think of anything worse to do. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning knowing that in an hour I'm going to be going and lifting weights and doing fucking squats and fucking reverse deadlifts and all this crap. And I hate it, but I know that if I want to live a long life, if I want to live a healthy life, that's the stuff that I've got to do. And this is like that thing of like, no graft, no glory. You don't get any of the good stuff that you want without doing the stuff that you hate. And Muhammad Ali said it really well. It's the training. It's not the winning the fights. It's the champions. It's that. And I think that's when you ask me like, what do you like, or what's something that you don't know that people wouldn't know, is like whenever I say like people talk about networking, I go, I fucking hate networking. I'm like, what? No, yeah, but like going into a room, asking the same questions, hearing the same answers that you get asked all the time, I'd rather not. That is where opportunity lies. That is where the other stuff. And the other thing you said as well, I know you're trying to wrap up, but I'm not going to let you just yet.
Yeah, that's good.
You said like all you've done is about everyone else, and you've talked about helping other people and stuff like that. So I walked into a networking event. It was a BNI event. It was Dave Verberg, I think, was running the meeting, or he was doing a presentation in it. And he put up a slide, and it must have been 15 years ago, maybe 14 years ago, something like that. He put up a slide which was a quote from Zig Ziglar. And it said, you can have everything you want in life if you just help as many people as you possibly can get what they want out of life. I literally looked at that quote and went, first of all, what the fuck does that mean? That's stupid. And then I read it in my brain a couple of times and went, hey, that sounds cool, doesn't it? And I've literally ever since seeing that quote and it like, resonating with me or hitting me or whatever you want to say, I've done that stuff. And then loads of people will say, oh, you're always helping people, you're doing stuff. That's because I'm fucking selfish. Because helping other people is giving me shits and giggles and the best buzzers and the most joy I get. Like, I started doing the Sales Dojo stuff in 2017, and I did that because I'd been on John Ains's course, God rest his soul, what a guy, super mentor, absolute legend. And I was telling people in that meeting, I had to do like a little presentation about my business and what I've done in my business life. And I was telling them the best times I'd had was when I was helping a salesperson. We sat down and he said, Leon, I just want to say thanks to the work we've been doing together. I've got me bonus enough times that I've been able to get enough money together to get out of debt, to take the kids on the first fun holiday, to put them enough money together for the mortgage. And as I was saying this to these other business owners, the clouds outside the window moved and the sun shined through, and it was like, oh. I was like, what the fuck is this? What's this? Like, why am I feeling like this? So I went over to John afterwards. I said, John, he said, what's up, Liam? Because he never got my name right, and known him for 15 years. He said, what's up, Liam? And I told him, and he said to me, he said, Liam, that's brilliant. The two most important days in your life are the day that you're born and the day that you find out why. Congratulations. And then he walked away, and I was like, what? What is this guy saying to me? What's he on about? And that was when I realized that actually helping other people was the reason why I got joy and not helping myself. And I used to think I was completely focused on targets and I was completely into earning money and I was completely focused on getting my number and getting the fucking sales as much as I could and doing as much as I could to get my number in. Yeah. And when I stopped doing that and started concentrating on helping other people and doing some stuff, I got more sales in than I ever used to get when I was focused on myself. And I earn more money now than I ever did when I was just focused on earning money for myself. And that's because that is true. Both of those things from Zig Ziglar, and I think that's a Mark Twain quote actually with what John told me at the time, is, it isn't about you, it's about everyone else. Like, if you said success, which I've said loads of times, I shy away from because I'm self-deprecating or whatever the thing is, but success for me comes from helping other people. Like, that's where I've got the success from. And if people would say I was successful, thank you very much. That's very nice of you to say. Please tell me more next time you see it. But if people are saying that and that's what I've done, I would say that the way that I've become successful is by learning that it's helping other people get what they want, and getting them is what helps you. And, whether that's coaching, whether that's mentoring, whether that's, staff, if you build a team in your business, if you're trying to build a team around you, people, if you help them get what they want, then they're just going to try and help you as much as they can as well.
Amen to that, brother. Absolutely amen. And, listen, I was being a bit facetious because I knew exactly what you meant by that and where it is, but I really wanted to share that because I think, one of the areas that I'm really keen to bring out and for people to understand is when they're meeting people like yourselves who've been successful, I shall say it again, or have grafted really hard and seen glory in whatever that means to them, is that ultimately it's about helping yourself but helping other people for the greater good, because it always comes back to pay back for you. And if you look after people, they'll look after you. And I think, that's a really good place to leave it. I would love, because clearly this being the first episode of the podcast, I don't want it to be the last one. But I'd love to get you back on to talk a little bit more about networking, even though you hate it so much, but the value of it, because it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs hear the word, shit themselves, don't really want to do it. But actually, if you do it right and do it in the right way, can be real added value. But we'll be for another 18 hours, Leon, if me and you start talking about the power of network.
I've got to get home to Frankie, mate. I'm sorry.
No, brother. Brilliant. Well, thank you very, very much for being the first guest. And speak to you soon. Nice one. Cheers.
Mate.